It was a beautiful, sunny summer day, and the Appleton family was gathered on the patio. Craig, the head of the family, sat in the gazebo's shade, wearing a robe and a black bandage over his eyes. He sipped his coffee while his wife, Diana, sunbathed on a lounger with a cocktail. She looked stunning, her perfect figure and impeccable looks on full display. She fluttered her long, doll-like eyelashes before yelling at her stepdaughter, Lisa, a 7-year-old girl running around the pool, trying to catch a butterfly with a net. "Lisa, stop running. Calm down. Can you play quietly for at least 5 minutes?" "Oh, you naughty child." The girl, active and adorable with her curly brown hair and chubby cheeks, resembled a little angel. She had long grown used to her stepmother's lack of affection, so she didn't even flinch at being scolded. A beautiful, huge butterfly with colorful wings landed on the edge of the pool. Lisa carefully pulled her phone from her pocket, hoping to take a picture. She approached closer and closer to the pool's edge, but suddenly, she stumbled and fell head over heels into the water. Lisa began screaming and flailing. She couldn't swim well. "Daddy! Daddy! I'm drowning! Help me!" she cried. Craig, hearing his daughter's panic, rushed to the pool. Almost blind, he staggered, his hands outstretched as he tried to find his way. "Diana, can't you hear her? Help Lisa! I can't see anything. Where am I going?" he shouted. But Diana didn't even get up from her lounger. She merely protested, "You little brat. I told you to sit quietly. This will teach you a lesson. Stop shouting and swim to the edge. Come on." Hearing Lisa's desperate cries, the gardener, Peter, threw down his lawnmower and sprinted to the pool. Without hesitation, he jumped into the water and quickly pulled the little girl out. Lisa, drenched and trembling, rushed to her father, hugging him tightly. "Daddy, I was so scared. I just wanted to take a picture of the butterfly. My phone drowned too. I didn't mean to." "It's okay, sweetie," Craig reassured her, patting her back. "We'll get you a new phone. Those things don't matter. The important thing is you're safe and healthy. Now go inside, change into dry clothes, and please be more careful next time. Don't go near the edge, it's slippery. You scared Daddy half to death." Diana, however, was furious. "What a weakling you are. You should have punished her for not listening. She almost drowned and ruined an expensive phone, and all you do is spoil her. She's out of control. When are you going to hire a nanny for her? I can't handle this anymore. She's spoiled and unbearable." Craig's tone grew sharp. "How dare you? She nearly drowned, and instead of helping, you sat there. If it weren't for Peter, we might have lost her. Lisa is just a child who's lost her mother. I love her very much, and if you want to be with me, you'll have to accept that. Do you think your child wouldn't run around or misbehave? And yes, I'll find a nanny. I've already posted an ad, but it's not easy now that I'm blind." Realizing she had gone too far, Diana quickly softened her tone. "Don't be mad, darling. You know I love you. But I can't spend all day chasing after Lisa. I have my commitments: training, fitness, massages, beauty appointments. And now, with your business and your daughter on my plate, we need that nanny. It'll make life easier for all of us. Anyway, I have to go. I have a manicure at noon and a massage at 2. Love you. Don't miss me too much." Lisa, relieved that her stepmother was leaving, quietly sat next to her father, hugging him with her small hands. "I'm sorry, Daddy. I didn't mean to cause trouble. Why is Diana so mean? She doesn't love me or you. Can't you see that? I miss my real mommy so much." Craig sighed and wrapped his arms around her. "I miss her too, my little one. She was the best. But remember, she's in heaven now. And Diana, she's not so bad. You're just not used to each other yet. I promise, though, you'll get to help pick out the nanny. We have another candidate coming soon." The girl kissed her father's cheek and ran off to play with her dolls in the yard, while Craig closed his eyes in pain, lost in memories. His first wife, Vanessa, had been beautiful, a perfect homemaker, and from a respectable family. But most importantly, she loved Craig. They were supposed to live happily ever after, but 2 years ago, Vanessa died of a serious genetic illness. It all began after giving birth. First, her vision deteriorated, then her memory faded. Soon, her arms and legs stopped working, and before long, Vanessa was bedridden, gradually wasting away. It was terrifying, watching such a young, beautiful woman become helpless. Craig was beside himself with despair. No matter how much he spent on the best medicine or treatment, nothing could bring her back to health. After Vanessa's funeral, their daughter withdrew into herself, crying constantly and still mourning her mother. Craig, too, thought he'd never be able to move on or live with anyone else. But one day, at a business dinner, everything changed. It was at a restaurant, and he saw Diana. She was sitting with a friend, sipping martinis and laughing, full of life. The dinner slowly transitioned into an evening of fun, and soon Craig found himself dancing with her. The slow dance, her youthful and desirable body, the beauty she exuded, it was overwhelming. That was how their romance started, and it quickly led to a wedding. Diana settled in fast, taking on the role of the mistress of the house with confidence. She gave orders, commanded the staff, and made herself comfortable. But she and Lisa never got along. The tension between them was mutual, and Craig chalked it up to jealousy, thinking his daughter just needed time to adjust. But even after 2 years, nothing improved. The relationship between Diana and Lisa had only worsened. They openly fought. Then, just 2 weeks ago, a terrible incident occurred. Their driver, Tim, had asked for some time off for personal reasons, so Craig had to drive himself to work. That evening, after staying late at the office, he was walking to his car when 3 bandits attacked him from behind. He fought back, but one of the criminals sprayed pepper spray directly into his eyes. Luckily, a passing patrol car scared the attackers off, but the damage had been done. Craig's eyes were severely burned, leaving him almost blind. Now, he had to wear black sunglasses or a blindfold while undergoing treatment. The doctors had warned that if the medication didn't work, he would need surgery to restore his vision. It was a slim hope, but it kept him going. Craig, now practically disabled, was forced to manage his company from home. He communicated with partners over the phone and held online conferences. Surprisingly, Diana threw herself into the business, quickly taking charge and handling things efficiently. Still, Craig couldn't shake the nagging thought of who could have held such a grudge against him to orchestrate the attack. He hadn't had sharp conflicts in years. His thoughts were interrupted by a pleasant voice. "Good afternoon. Are you Craig Appleton? My name is Carol. I'm here for the nanny position. I'm scheduled for noon." Craig smiled. Though he couldn't see her, something about her voice felt warm and reassuring. For some reason, he imagined she was a pleasant, young woman. He started asking questions. "Carol, how old are you? Have you been working with children for a long time? Do you have recommendations from your previous job? And what kind of education do you have? I love my daughter very much, and I want to find a true professional for her." Carol sighed softly before answering, "Then I probably won't suit you. I don't have recommendations, but I love children, and I'm ready to work for a small fee. I've already met Lisa. She's a wonderful girl. I promise to be with her all the time and teach her." At that moment, Lisa ran up, noticing her father's hesitation. With a cheerful tone and a wink at Carol, she said, "Daddy, stop frowning. Let's juice. I like Carol. And didn't you say I'd get to choose the nanny myself?" Craig weighed all the pros and cons. Carol was too young, only 23. No experience, no recommendations. Who knew what kind of person she was? But then there was her voice, so kind, so calming, and, more importantly, Lisa liked her. That was a first. He took a deep breath. "Oh well, what will be will be. All right, Carol, you're hired, but on a trial basis. You can start right away. There's a schedule of lessons and a daily routine in Lisa's room. You'll need to take her to dance and drawing classes, help her with homework, make sure she eats properly, and report to me about any changes in her health. Is everything clear?" Carol nearly cried with joy. She needed this job. "Thank you. You won't regret it, I promise. I'll do my best." From that day on, Carol began working for the Appletons, and she was fantastic. Lisa adored her. Unlike others, Carol didn't pressure or scold her, they were more like friends. If Lisa started slacking off or didn't want to practice writing her letters, Carol had a clever way of getting her back on track. She'd immediately suggest a competition. All right, whoever finishes the task faster and better gets the biggest, most delicious vanilla ice cream. And the loser, well, they'll have to eat oatmeal for 2 days. I hate oatmeal. What about you? With that, Lisa would puff and scribble those dreaded alphabet letters, determined to beat Carol and avoid the gross oatmeal. Craig was thrilled with the new nanny. His daughter's academic progress improved, and her mood was brighter. Every evening, Lisa would excitedly share stories about how Carol had taught her to make fancy hairstyles or weave macrame. Only Diana wasn't pleased. She kept muttering, "You picked a strange nanny for Lisa. She's just a young upstart and spoils your daughter more than you do. What kind of upbringing is this? She should be stricter with Lisa. Otherwise, she'll just relax completely," Diana muttered. The girls started ignoring me. Before, at least she'd get angry, but now she just stays quiet and runs to Carol. Craig chuckled. "You won't be satisfied with anyone, my dear. No nanny is good enough, but having a nanny isn't good either. If Lisa's rude, you don't like it. If she doesn't say anything, it's bad too. Maybe you just don't want to find a way to connect with her." Diana pursed her lips and fell into a sulky silence, thinking to herself, "Do whatever you want. Just keep that annoying girl away from me. I'm so tired of her, asterisk." In the mansion, there was a grand piano. Craig had been a musician in his younger days, and from time to time, he would play some melodies when feeling nostalgic. One afternoon, while resting, he overheard Carol and Lisa giggling as they played "The Dog Waltz" on the piano together. Their laughter echoed through the house, and Craig nearly fell off his chair in surprise. "Carol," he called out, "do you play the piano?" "I'm pleasantly surprised. I used to be a musician." "Play something else. I'm curious to hear more." Carol blushed, clearly flustered. "I'm not a professional, but I had a wonderful music teacher at the orphanage. She said I had talent. I love music, especially this melody. It always touches my heart." She sat down at the piano and began to play a slow, romantic tune. As the gentle notes filled the room, Craig felt a wave of emotion wash over him. Tears streamed down his face. The melody transported him back to his youth, awakening memories long buried. His soul stirred with feelings he hadn't experienced in years. "My God," he whispered to himself. "This is simply impossible." When Carol finished, Craig wiped his eyes and thanked her. "Tell me, where did you learn this melody?" "It's not recorded anywhere, I'm sure of it. It was written by someone I used to know." Carol hesitated for a moment before answering. "My neighbor, Rachel, taught me to play it. She's a talented woman. If you could hear her play. But she's had a rough time recently. Her son was taken away, and she lost her job for no good reason. She's been in a deep depression, and I've been trying to help her as best I can." Craig's heart pounded in his chest. His legs felt weak. "Rachel, what's her last name? How old is her son? Why was he taken from her?" Carol sighed softly. "Her last name is Lesnikova. She's around 30. Her son was taken away by social services, but I don't know all the details. She's been struggling ever since." "I didn't ask much about it, to be honest," Carol continued, "but her son's name is Adam. He's 9 years old, such a wonderful boy. Smart and serious beyond his years. I don't know if Rachel was ever married or who Adam's father is, but she once mentioned her first and tragically failed love. Rachel used to work as a music teacher at a private school. She earned a decent salary and was always dedicated to her job. But then the director, a married man over 50 with grandchildren, started harassing her. He threatened that if she didn't sleep with him, he'd make her life so miserable she'd end up begging him. But Rachel isn't one to back down. When he crossed the line and groped her in his office, she slapped him and threatened to go to his wife and report him to the police. Carol's voice hardened as she recalled the story. That's when things went south. He made her life hell. One day, while she was out, someone broke into her apartment so carefully that no one could detect it. They scattered cigarette butts and whiskey bottles everywhere. As soon as Rachel and Adam came home from school, child services, along with fake witnesses, stormed in. Rachel was blindsided. She didn't understand how it happened. They took Adam away, claiming she was neglecting him, drinking, and not caring for him. Lies, all of it. I've been to her place many times. It's always spotless. She didn't smoke, and the most she'd have was a bit of wine on birthdays or holidays. Carol paused, her voice filled with frustration. Since then, Rachel's been fighting nonstop to get her son back, knocking on every door, trying to prove she was framed. But it's all been in vain. The director fired her, publicly humiliated her, and labeled her an unfit mother. She's been crushed ever since, spending her days crying outside the orphanage, trying to see Adam. He's suffering there, begging to come home. You know, they always make orphanages look so great on TV, well-fed kids, happy faces, but it's not like that. I was an orphan myself. I know what it's really like. It's a nightmare. I feel so sorry for Rachel and Adam. If I could, I'd strangle that old man for what he's done. Craig sat there, stunned, tears falling from his already damaged eyes. Everything Carol said aligned too perfectly. It couldn't be a coincidence. His voice trembled as he spoke. Carol, please, bring Rachel here tomorrow. I need to see her, at least hear her voice. We've known each other. It's a long story, but just do it. Tell her Craig is waiting for her. Carol, surprised by Craig's urgency, nodded. Okay, I'll try. I'll bring her in the morning if she's willing. But how should I explain this to her? Craig's voice broke. Just tell her. Craig is waiting. When Carol left to feed Lisa lunch, Craig locked himself in his office, clasping his head in his hands. His mind drifted back to his youth, back to Rachel. Craig had grown up without a father, raised by his mother. She told him wild stories about his father being a polar explorer or a geologist, but as Craig got older, he saw through them. By then, he had stopped asking those silly questions and instead focused on what he truly loved. Craig's mind was filled with memories of his youth, particularly of Rachel. As a child, he had a natural gift for music, and it was through this passion that he first met her. He could still picture her, that skinny little girl with huge bows in her hair, holding her sheet music. They were inseparable from that moment on, becoming best friends and later falling deeply in love. Together, they pursued their musical dreams, performing at concerts and dreaming of a future in music. But as time passed, Craig's ambitions shifted. While Rachel remained dedicated to music and the simple joys of life, Craig became frustrated with their financial situation. He wanted more. He dreamed of wealth, a big house, a nice car, and a comfortable life. His passion for music faded, replaced by a desire for business success. Their relationship began to strain. Rachel, who lived for love, music, and simplicity, didn't understand Craig's obsession with money. She was hurt when he dismissed their shared passion for music and pushed her to give private lessons to earn more. In a heated argument, she threw the gold earrings he had bought her back in his face. That moment marked the end of their relationship. Craig, angry and determined to prove himself, threw himself into the business world. He worked tirelessly, building a chain of auto repair shops and eventually meeting Vanessa, with whom he started a family. But as he immersed himself in his career and family life, the memory of Rachel and their shared love of music faded into the background. It wasn't until Vanessa's tragic death that Craig began to feel the weight of his choices. But even then, he moved forward, meeting and marrying Diana, whose fiery passion was very different from the quiet, ethereal connection he had shared with Rachel. Yet now, hearing that haunting melody, the same one Rachel had played all those years ago, everything came rushing back. The memories, the regrets, the what-ifs. He realized how deeply Rachel had impacted his life. It wasn't just nostalgia, it was a longing, an aching desire to reconnect with the person who had once been his everything. The night was long, filled with restless thoughts of what the next day might bring. Craig meticulously prepared himself the following morning, shaving and dressing with care, his heart pounding with anticipation. He had no idea what Rachel's life had been like after they parted ways. But one thing was clear, his first love had never truly left his heart. And now he was about to see her again after all these years. Edward's smirk widened as he arrogantly leaned back in his chair. "You should have just listened to me from the beginning, Rachel. I told you, no one refuses me. It wasn't hard to set you up, just a few calls, some well-placed bribes, and those child services clowns were eating out of my hand. Your spotless reputation? Easy to ruin when people are willing to believe the worst. All because you wouldn't play nice." Rachel felt her stomach churn, but she kept her composure. Every word he spoke was being recorded. The champagne glass trembled slightly in her hand, but she knew she had to keep him talking. She took a small sip, fighting the nausea rising in her throat. "You ruined my life," she said softly, her voice shaking with both fear and fury. "All because I wouldn't give in to your disgusting demands." Edward's face darkened for a moment, but then he shrugged, a cruel smile playing on his lips. "What can I say? I always get what I want. But don't worry, once this is over, I'll give you your precious son back. As long as you do exactly as I say tonight, your nightmare will end." Rachel felt her blood run cold, but she forced herself to smile, leaning in slightly to keep the conversation going. "But how did you manage to get everyone on your side? The lies, the fake witnesses, you made it all happen so fast." "I didn't even see it coming." Edward laughed, swirling the champagne in his glass. "Oh, that was the easy part. Money talks, my dear. And I've got plenty of it. People will say whatever I want them to say for the right price. They're all puppets, and I pull the strings." Rachel could hardly believe the level of arrogance and evil sitting in front of her. The rage was bubbling up inside her, but she knew she had to stay calm for just a little longer. She glanced toward the window, knowing the police were waiting for her signal. "Well," she said, trying to keep her voice steady, "if it means getting Adam back, I'll do whatever you want." Edward's eyes lit up with lust, and he stood up, moving toward her. "That's the spirit. Now, why don't you come here and—" Before he could finish, Rachel turned toward the window and flung it open. Within seconds, the door burst open, and the room flooded with police officers. Edward's smug grin vanished, replaced by shock and fury as they tackled him to the ground. "What the hell is this?" he screamed, struggling against the officers. "You can't do this to me. I'm untouchable." But the police weren't listening. They were already slapping handcuffs on him, reading him his rights as he continued to shout and curse. Rachel stood frozen, watching the scene unfold, her heart racing with both fear and relief. She had done it. She had brought him down. The weight of the past months lifted from her shoulders, and for the first time in what felt like forever, she allowed herself to hope. As the officers dragged Edward out of the room, Henry Black approached Rachel, a look of admiration on his face. "You were incredible," he said. "We've got everything we need to put him away for a long time. Adam will be back with you soon." Rachel nodded, tears of relief welling up in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for everything." Craig, waiting outside, heard the commotion and, despite his limited vision, rushed toward Rachel, pulling her into a tight embrace. "It's over," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "We did it. Adam is coming home." Rachel sobbed into his chest, overcome with relief and gratitude. She had her son back. And maybe, just maybe, she could have a future with Craig too. "Do you think my secretary and the physical education teacher work here for nothing? They turned out to be smarter than you and now receive excellent salaries and regular bonuses. As for you, there's nothing complicated. My good and very close acquaintance works in the guardianship authorities, and it was thanks to my patronage that she got there. She paid me back by putting your boy in an orphanage. I hired bandits and witnesses to create that mess in your flat. Money solves everything these days, believe me. Well, I liked you. I fell for you. So, the more pleasure you give me, the faster you'll get your son back. Are you relaxed now? Take off your clothes. You talk too much." Rachel realized she couldn't delay any longer. Pretending to unbutton her blouse, she walked over to the window and quickly opened it. She began to pray and wait for the police officer to arrive. The director, having lost all control, ran up to her with surprising agility for his age and began to indecently touch her, trying to rip her blouse off. Rachel started screaming and fighting back, repulsed by the old man. Edward began to push her, knocking everything off the table. "Shut up, you fool. There's no one here anyway. Even the janitor is gone. Why did you decide to fight again? Have you lost your mind?" At that moment, the flimsy door burst open with a crash, and the operative burst into the office. He swiftly arrested the scoundrel and rebuked him. "Shame on you for engaging in such indecent behavior at your age. And you're a married man with grandchildren. How will they feel learning what their grandfather has been up to?" The director cursed and struggled to break free. "You had me wrapped around your finger. You'll pay for this. I have connections, you know." The policeman quickly shut him up. "We'll deal with your connections later. How did you manage to take this woman's child and cover it up?" Rachel finally relaxed, exhaled, and burst into tears from the stress she had just endured. "Will they return Adam to me now? He confessed to everything, didn't he? Did I do everything right?" She handed the officer a recording device. He reassured her, "We'll sort everything out. I think you'll be reunited with your son soon. Don't worry. We'll send the scoundrel to prison. People like him belong behind bars." The case made headlines, and the lecherous director was convicted. The townspeople were outraged that he had worked at the educational institution for so many years. Rachel was reinstated at work, and her good name was restored. Most importantly, she was reunited with her son. The woman wept and kissed her little boy without stopping, and he couldn't let go of her embrace either. Meanwhile, Craig eagerly awaited the meeting with his son. He was so absorbed in Rachel's problems that he had completely forgotten about Diana. But she had been watching everything from the sidelines and decided to clarify the situation. "Darling, what's going on? You're always on edge, making phone calls and talking about Rachel and her son. Can you explain something to me?" The man couldn't see his young wife's contorted, angry face, but he strongly felt the hatred and anger emanating from her. At that moment, he realized he no longer wanted to live with her. It was obvious she would never get along with his daughter. Furthermore, Craig didn't love her that much. It was more of a passion, an obsession that quickly dissipated. Diana had become more and more impudent, taking control of everything in his house and becoming almost uncontrollable, imagining herself as the mistress of everything. Craig sighed heavily and began the unpleasant conversation. "You're right, Diana. We needed to talk seriously for a long time. First, I'll answer your question. Rachel is my first and long-standing love. We studied together at music school, and then we foolishly broke up. It turned out she was already pregnant, but didn't even know it yet. She gave birth to a son named Adam. So now I'm the father of 2 children, Lisa and Adam." Diana exploded. "Even better. Are you saying that besides your spoiled daughter, there will also be a boy living here? That's terrible. I don't even want my children yet, and you're pushing someone else's on me." Craig bitterly smiled. "You didn't listen to me, Diana. Our romance spun so fast that I couldn't even understand anything myself. But the passion quickly faded, and now, 2 years later, we're almost strangers. You don't get along with Lisa, and it seems you're not going to find a way to connect with her. When I saw Rachel after many years, I realized I still loved her as I did in my youth. I understand it's unpleasant for you to hear this now, but I'm not going to lie. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk to the doctor about eye surgery, and then we'll probably have to part ways. Don't worry, I'll leave you the apartment in the residential area and the car I gave you. After that, you're on your own. You'll have to find a job and live like everyone else." Diana jumped up and screamed in a voice not her own. "What a statement. I'm your wife, so half of all your property and business is mine. I'll take everything that's rightfully mine. Ungrateful. I've been living with you for 2 years, putting up with your unbearable daughter. At least you could say thank you. By the way, I'm not going to live with you anymore either. I don't need another burden on my shoulders. I'm only 25 years old, with my whole life ahead of me. I want to have fun and enjoy life, not take care of someone else's children and a blind husband. Craig couldn't take it anymore. So that's how you talk? While I was healthy, giving you gifts, buying you gold, and being a good husband. Now that I'm disabled, I'm not good enough for you? Well then, we can say goodbye right now. I won't keep you any longer. Diana realized she had said too much and changed tactics. Honey, wait. Let's stop. We both got angry and said too much. Let's wait until you get better and recover before we have this unpleasant conversation, okay? Great. Don't rush into surgery. The doctor said a month, not earlier. Otherwise, God forbid, there may be complications. Come to me. I'll kiss you. But it all sounded so insincere and fake that Craig just pushed away from his wife and sharply replied, "As you wish." I've said everything. Sorry, I need to listen to the recording of the meeting sent by my deputy. Diana quickly left the man's office, boiling inside with anger. Oh, you miserable invalid. He's leaving me an apartment. What am I supposed to live on? Go work? God forbid. I'm not meant for this. Just wait. I'll get you. You'll remember me for a long time. Craig didn't listen to his wife and decided to consult a professor. Rachel offered to go with him to support him as a friend. It was so touching and pleasant. Carol and Lisa had their after-school activities that day, including drawing and sculpting. They came home late and froze in shock. There was a terrible mess in the house. The safe was open and empty, and many expensive items and electronics were missing. Carol was scared to death and immediately called the police. Craig, we have an emergency. Lisa and I just got back and we've been robbed. Everything's turned upside down. The safe's open. There's no TV. There were documents on your shelf. Maybe something else is missing. I can't tell right away. I called the police. Come quickly. Craig ordered Carol, okay, go with Lisa to the children's room. Lock yourselves in, and don't open the door for anyone until I get there. I'll be there soon. He immediately forgot about his illness. Craig turned on the camera recording and was horrified by what he saw. Diana and the driver, Tim, were running around the house, grabbing everything in sight: electronics, jewelry, money, and valuable papers. Diana had no idea that there were cameras, so she got angry and shouted, "There you go, hubby. You'll remember me yet." Tim responded with anger, "What a lucky wretch. We couldn't finish him off then, only blinded him. Otherwise, we would have sent Lisa to a shelter and lived here like kings." And where did that patron come from? They never passed by here before. Diana shouted at Tim to hurry up, since the nanny and Lisa would be back any minute. They needed to sell everything quickly and order tickets to a warm place. Craig was in shock. The police quickly took fingerprints and rushed to catch the couple. Craig's daughter hugged and comforted her father. "I told you a long time ago, Daddy. Diana doesn't love us. She's mean and bad, and you didn't believe me. You'll kick her out now, won't you?" Craig kissed his princess. "You're growing up so fast." "Yes, Diana won't be living with us anymore. But I would like to introduce you to a nice woman. Remember when she came to visit us once? Her name is Rachel, and she has a son, Adam. He's your brother. It's a long story. You'll understand when you're older. I hope you two get along." Diana and Tim will be punished by the police and sent to prison. His daughter suddenly asked anxiously, "But will everything be okay now, Daddy?" "Daddy, what did the doctor say? Will your eyes be able to see again?" Craig answered his daughter, "I'm going for surgery on Monday. You and Carol will be together all the time, and Adam will be with you too. His mother will go with me to the hospital. Please listen to Carol and be a good girl." The police quickly found the lovers by following a hot trail to Tim's apartment, handcuffed them, and took them to the station. Now, both faced a significant sentence for attempting to harm Craig and stealing from him. Diana was in a panic. The gray, damp government walls, the dirty mattress, and the terrible gruel filled her with indescribable horror. Only now did she realize what awaited her. She cried day and night, cursing herself. "Fool. Why didn't I just live peacefully? And now what? What did I ever get involved with Tim for? I need to meet with Craig urgently and beg for forgiveness. He's kind. He'll forgive me. I agree to leave the city as far as possible, anywhere as long as it's not prison. Meanwhile, Craig filed for divorce, leaving all the hassle to his lawyer, and went in for surgery. Rachel was by his side, while Carol stayed at home with the children. Adam was initially shy and embarrassed, but the lively and restless Lisa quickly befriended him. Within a day, he felt at home in the Appleton house. After school, they always visited Craig in the hospital. The operation was successful, and soon the bandage would be removed from his eyes. Everyone eagerly awaited this moment. During this difficult time, Craig, Rachel, Carol, and the children became so close that they truly formed one big, friendly team. Lisa and Adam understood that their father was sick and tried not to misbehave or upset him, especially since they always had fun and interesting times with Carol. Finally, Craig's bandage was carefully removed. Bright light immediately hit his eyes, and he instinctively closed them. Tears streamed down his face. Then, he slowly began to open them and finally saw the world as it was before the tragedy. The doctor examined Craig, was satisfied, and ordered him to prepare for discharge. When Craig walked out of the office, smiling broadly, and saw Rachel in the hallway, he exclaimed, "My dear, I knew you hadn't changed at all over the years. You've just become even more beautiful. The same lips, curls, long eyelashes, and the lock tucked behind your ear. Rachel, you are so beautiful. Finally, I can look at you, admire you every second, and see my son. Thanks to Carol, I will be grateful to her for the rest of my life for playing our melody on the piano." Believe me, I almost fainted. Everything in my soul stirred. You wrote it yourself, Rachel. How happy I am that you've appeared in my life again. I am ready to sell all this business, hell with it. It has been a thorn in my side. I have earned enough money over the years for my whole family to live comfortably for many years. So let's try to live as you want, in love, peace, and enjoying each other and beloved music. Are you okay with that? Rachel cried tears of joy and hugged Craig. You're my little fool. These are the words I was hoping to hear from you back then. You know, I was so upset that you chose money and business over our love and calling to music. Of course, I agree. I still love you. Do you remember when we first kissed? You played me the Moonlight Sonata, and then we spent the whole night looking for the Big Dipper in the night sky, passionately kissing. You wrapped me in your jacket and held me gently, hiding me from the rain. At that moment, I was the happiest. Do you believe me? Let's go home. Everyone is waiting for us there. When Lisa saw how confidently her father walked out of the car, she understood that he could see and immediately rushed to him. Hooray, Daddy! You recovered. I'm so happy. Let's go quickly. We baked you a cake. You'll love it. Adam and I helped Carol. Adam stood shyly on the sidelines, not daring to approach Craig. They still hadn't talked properly. Craig told Lisa to run into the house and approached the boy himself. Well, hello, son. Finally, I see you and can look at you. We look alike, ears and a smile are mine. You can't deny it. Did your mom tell you that I'm your dad? I'm so upset that I didn't know anything about you before, and 9 years of your life passed me by. But now that we've met, let me be a real father, the closest person I would like to be. Know that I love you, son. I will never hurt you, and I will always support you in everything. He extended his hand to the boy, and Adam shook it firmly. Then he said quietly, I'm glad you're with me now, Dad. I see how Mom is smiling. Craig hugged the boy tightly, pressing him to himself. Now we will all live together as one big family. You seem to have made peace with Lisa. She's your little sister, so stick together and support each other in life. Now, let's go have lunch. From that day on, Craig Appleton's life changed dramatically. He became an entirely different person. Unexpectedly, he sold his prosperous business and threw himself into caring for his family and music. Every morning, he approached the piano with pleasure, playing his favorite and long-forgotten melodies. He even took out an old music notebook. Rachel became his tutor and also taught the children. It turned out to be a great success, as both Rachel and Craig had colossal natural talent. They decided to take a risk and open their brainchild, a private music school. The couple married modestly, not wanting to attract attention to their lives. They had no time for that, preferring instead to admire and look at each other. Only now did Craig realize that all these years, he had been living someone else's life. He had chosen the wrong job and the wrong woman, dragging this burden by inertia. The only thing he did not regret at all was his daughter, Lisa. She was his sunshine, a stimulus to live and create. Rachel quickly became friends with Lisa. Her naturally soft demeanor, love for children, and work at school made her a perfect fit. Carol, initially afraid of being fired, was reassured by Craig and Rachel. "Don't worry, Carol. Stay in our house. You are no longer a stranger to us, and the children cannot do without you." Even with just Lisa, it wasn't boring here, and now there are two little brats. Everyone needs to keep an eye on them. Meanwhile, Diana sat in pretrial detention, praying for a meeting with Craig. However, he deliberately delayed the meeting, wanting to teach her a lesson and forever discourage her from wanting to steal and cheat. Diana became thin, with dull and lifeless skin. The thought of spending the coming years in such stuffiness filled her with sickness and despair. When Diana was told that her ex-husband was ready to meet her, she almost jumped for joy. However, when the skinny Diana, dressed in a crumpled tracksuit with greasy hair and a messy bun, entered the room for the negotiations, Craig flinched. The difference between her present self and the confident, brazen woman she once was striking. Diana quietly began to plead, tears in her eyes. "Forgive me, Craig, if you can. I am to blame for everything. Now I am left with nothing. I beg you, withdraw the statement. I don't want to go to jail. I'm just dying here. I promise I'll leave right away to live with my mother and never appear in your life again. Have mercy on me. Forgive me." Craig replied, "I hope jail has served as an excellent lesson for you. You won't steal from someone else again, at least not from someone who supports you, and you won't harm your next husband either. That plan failed, and my vision has fully recovered. Just so you know, Lisa is a wonderful child. She gets along with Carol, Rachel, and her little brother Adam. It wasn't about her at all. It was about you. You're a wicked, calculating, selfish person who only thinks about your interests. I will withdraw the statement, but if you ever show up again, you'll end up in jail. I've kept the camera recording safe." Diana cried and whispered, "Thank you." The Appleton family lived in peace and harmony. Many people in the city and their children wanted to attend their music school. Lisa and Adam both played instruments. Adam chose the guitar and drums, while Lisa continued with the piano. Rachel often composed her melodies, and Craig wrote poetry. They had family songs that they all enjoyed singing together. Finally, Craig's life was filled with the meaning he had always dreamed of.